Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas objects to climate change. No, Gail Collins of the New York Times reported yesterday that Cruz nixed a provision on climate change in a routine Senate resolution commemorating International Women's Day. The provision said that women, quote, are disproportionately affected by changes in climate because of their need to secure water, food, and fuel for their livelihood. So what's wrong with that? Joining us, hopefully, to answer that question is HuffPost Politics Associate Editor Luke Johnson. Luke, what exactly is Senator Cruz objecting to?
He objects to the bare mention that the climate is changing, which apparently is so controversial that it cannot be mentioned.
I mean, is that really what it is? Because that statement that I just quoted seems pretty standard. I mean, are people going to take this seriously?
That language has been in previous congressional resolutions with no controversy whatsoever. But Ted Cruz is a Tea Party guy, and the debate, at least on the right, has shifted to merely mentioning that the climate is changing. To say nothing of why that might be is somehow completely controversial.
So speaking of the controversy, why don't we bring in our community to hash this one out? Blake Henderson's joining us from New York, and we also have Egberto Willies from Kingwood, Texas. Josh Garber is also here from San Francisco. Why don't we start with you, Egberto? I mean, okay, we'll start with someone else because, Egberto, you're muted. So unmute yourself.
I just took...
Oh,
yes,
I
took it up.
There you go. So what do you make of this?
Just took it up, yeah. I think it's crazy. But here's the interesting thing about this. He took out a statement, and very few people gave it coverage. This should be something that that actually created an outpour from not only, let's say, HuffPost or the others, but from any organization having to do with the world at all. Because to have a right-winger movement, a statement like that, a proven statement, it should have gotten a whole lot more mention.
Well, Blake, we have someone in our comment section saying this: Ted Cruz will do anything to be the darling of the right-wing anti-science crowd. What do you make of this statement, and why is he objecting to this routine session?
Well, I think that it's just like a sad state of affairs when that's what people are, that's what politicians have to do to get the attention that they think they need to have a platform going forward for a presidential election in the future or anything like that. I just think I just do not think it bodes well for our country and for the leadership that we have leading us.
And there's so many controversies that do seem so manufactured and unnecessary, at least to me. I wanted to ask you, Josh, Cruz's spokesperson said a provision expressing the Senate's view on such a controversial topic as climate change has no place in a supposedly non-controversial resolution requiring consent of all 100 U.S. senators. What do you make of this?
It shouldn't have been controversial at all. I don't see that climate change is even a question, as he said that it was. But one thing that I'm happy about is I didn't think about climate change until the story came out along gender lines. And I think that's pretty fascinating when you consider that it does disproportionately affect females. And so if any good came out of it, it's that that was raised as an issue.
What do you think about that, Luke? I see Egberto nodding.
Yeah. I think paradoxically, it does raise kind of a hidden issue with climate change, is that it disproportionately affects women in places like Africa because women grow most of the crops and are affected by the growing seasons, and might not have the education or training to deal with a shorter growing season, and women are left to rebuild a village after it floods. So I mean, climate change is disproportionately affecting women, especially in developing countries, and I don't think we're looking at it enough as a human rights issue.
And it is amazing because, as it turns out, Josh brought up an excellent point, and that is, in as much as we would not have liked it to be a controversial issue, by him making it a controversial issue actually has opened the door to make us a bit more educated. So in something that he would have liked to make a right-wing issue, he's actually expanded the horizon of us all.
Right, and speaking about expanding horizons, I just hate that it always has to be right-wing or leftist. You know, it seems as though climate change, whether it's controversial or not, is a conversation that we should all be having since we all share this climate and this world. But I don't know how you feel about the fact, Blake, that this often does have to fall on party lines, and then the conversation almost gets lost there in the accusations.
Yeah, I think that it just goes back to say what I was goes back to show what I was trying to say before about kind of where people feel they need to be landing on these issues. But I think even beyond just like the party issues that people kind of have to stick to, there's also a lot to be said about just like looking at it straight from a business mindset or from a social mindset. And I think that there are very strict divides along that I think need to be addressed as well.
Right.
That the business side needs to be co-opted and the social side needs to be co-opted and find that happy medium.
By the way, it wasn't until very recently that climate change was a partisan issue. I mean, John McCain, Lindsey Graham, and George Lemieux, the former senator from Florida, were very close to a cap-and-trade bill in the Senate in 2009. So it's only since the Republican Party has shifted so rightward that this has kind of become more of a left-right issue.
No, I appreciate you making
that point.
I appreciate you
John
making that
Huntsman.
point. Do you have any? I'll come back to you. Actually, go ahead, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, John Huntsman, he's a Republican that really came out and said, I believe in science. It was so important when he did that. And the reason it's a left-right issue is that right now the right is really pulling us from an unscientific venue. So that's the reason why it remains that way now.
Right, and to Luke's point, perhaps we can shift it back, who knows, in the next year or so that we can all be having this conversation. Luke, thanks for joining us. It's always nice.
Thank you for having me.
Here at HuffPost Live. Community, stick around. Up next, we talk about singer Michelle Shock's latest antics.